All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me just quickly post this link. So today is the last class before the project. We have a lot to cover, so we'll get started quickly as soon as this streaming comes up, and then we'll start. All right. First of all, thank you for everyone who is coming up and giving it a try. I genuinely appreciate everybody who's giving it a try. Again, it doesn't matter if you come to the right conclusion or not, but you see how the learning is that you got there. At least you started something, right? And then you will see this is how it is. You get points for at least trying to get to it. And if you had more time, I'm pretty sure you guys would have kind of figured it out. It takes some time to getting used to it. So I'm going to continue this activity throughout the remaining course. I'm kind of coming closer to running out of like super easy ones. So I'm going to start pulling it from actual interview questions, easy ones, and then, so that you guys kind of get a hang of it. Um, Take a look at it. If you want, again, I prefer people coming up on the whiteboard and doing it versus doing it on your IDE and solving it on your own time. That's fine too if that gives you some practice. But again, whiteboard experience is going to be always going to be different, right? And you can talk to some of your peers who have tried this, and you will see that people have a solution in mind, but when they come up, people kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do, right? It's a totally different feeling, and you will not get it unless you are there. Okay. Again, I will highly encourage everybody else to give it a try. All right, so we have a lot of stuff. We'll go to the lecture, but we have our checkpoint today as well, and a new homework will be introduced towards the end of the class. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask to do the checkpoint first, so the TAs will slack you out the link for the checkpoint. We'll just take 10 minutes, complete the checkpoint, and then so we have checkpoint, homework, and then since this is the last day of our week, right, third day, we usually do a mini project. So we'll be dividing into groups and doing a small project. And I'll go over it after the checkpoint. It's going to be a little bit different format today. Okay, so the checkpoint is there. I'll start the timer. We'll take 10 minutes to complete this one. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so how are people feeling about Firebase? Let's no, you guys go back and give it a try, create any new database? No, not yet. Again, as I said, the class is always going to be like a week ahead of your homework, so make sure you are trying to work, because again, Firebase is, I agree, it's not easy. But at least if you're able to create a project, kind of, we only saw like literally just one method for Firebase, set, and then the event. But there are a few more, and we will be taking a look at those as well. Okay. So today, as I said, we'll have a small project, and that's what we'll kick off with. I'll show you the project and everything. The other thing is going to be a little bit different. Is we have a couple of new concepts for Firebase, but this time I'm going to show you an existing code. I'm going to walk you guys through the code instead of doing some live coding. Okay, these are small but important concepts, but you will see the coding part is really small. So I'm going to try, as we get along, as we kind of mature in the program, I want you guys to understand not just by live coding, but by looking at somebody else's code as well. Okay, so in today's most of the activities, I'm going to introduce you guys. I'm going to introduce a concept using one of the previous activity. Okay. Instead of live coding, I'm going to show you the solution, walk you through it, and then you guys are going to implement that in your mini project that you guys will be working on today. Okay. So there's no like activity that you will be working on. You will understand that concept and then apply the same concept right now in your small project. Okay, and I'll walk you guys through each of those steps. Okay, so before we proceed, these are the groups. Just get into the group, and then I will show you the project. Okay.
I know. Like the third or fourth time. Are you even listening? I don't have to. Grab my water.
On the Diffie API, I keep getting an error 403.
403 means unauthorized your API keys from your own.
Okay.
All right, looks like nobody is remote today. That's good.
Yeah. I think like maybe one time.
All right, everybody settle down. All right, looks like nobody is remoting in today, so that's good. I see 4 everywhere. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so today you guys will be creating a employee data management website. Okay, this is how the website looks like. Starting with a jumbotron, and then looks like there's a table with some headings, all right? And at the bottom, you have a form where you can enter an employee, okay, and a submit button, okay? Pretty straightforward. Jumbotron looks like a table, simple bootstrap. There's no crazy thing over here, and then employee information, and these are your placeholder text, okay? So if you click on it, you can put anything. These are placeholder text. And then what will happen is once you add, it should show up on the table over here. Let me walk. Let's see. Okay. Let's add 01/01/7,000. Okay, so I fill up some information, and then when I hit submit, it should give you an alert message saying employee successfully added, and then you should see the employee added over here. Okay, now this is eventually going to be connected to Firebase. You guys will be setting up a database and getting all this information from your database. But first 20 minutes in the first phase, all you have to do is create this screen just using Bootstrap. Okay, or if you want to do a CSS way, it's fine. But think of it as a team. This is done in Bootstrap. That's how I would recommend. But just create the template, like create HTML, this thing, all Bootstrap and JavaScript. Nothing to do with Firebase right now. All you are doing is creating this screen, making sure this is how it looks like. Okay. Of course, you don't have any data, so this would be empty. You can hard code something in the HTML just to see how it looks like, and then this form. Okay. Just Bootstrap, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Nothing to do with Firebase, anything right now. Okay. So the first 20 minutes. Now, since this is all front end, think about how would you divide this among your team. Okay. If you are super advanced team, um, one way would be that you create a GitHub repository, and then one person kind of does this, and then they push their code. The second person then pulls in, then they create this one. Third person kind of puts some values, and the fourth person kind of does this. But this is if you create a project on GitHub and everything. If this is too advanced, what you can do is you can share your screens using live share, and then kind of rotate among the members, that one of them does this and all three people are helping him or her, and then him or her then kind of transfers over the control, and then somebody else starts doing this one, and then kind of rotate so that everybody gets a chance to code. Okay, the other people who are not coding, they are looking at it and they're helping the person who's typing to make sure that they're doing good, and kind of encouraging them to kind of complete this activity. Okay, pick any method that you like, discuss among your team how you want to do it, but these are a couple of things, a couple of ways I can think you guys can divide your task, okay, without actually doing or overriding somebody else's code. Okay, so this HTML Bootstrap 20 minutes, I think it should be okay with 4 people. Okay, and if you're having trouble with live share not connecting, try for 5 minutes, otherwise just start doing this. All right, there's no Firebase or anything right now. Starting from scratch, yes. So I'm going to Slack out the screenshot for this app also on class activities channel. So you guys have a reference for this screen. I've slacked out the image and kind of looks like this. So I've slacked this out. You guys can take a look at it as a reference. So it's on Slack under the class activities channel. This is cool. What's up?
The actual solution, like the HTML for this one. Yeah, this one.
Okay.
So I'll open it up. I saw that there's the ability. Well, no, like in the browser.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay.
So I saw there was the ability to like clear out,
I
you
saw-
know, the database.
This must be
if
like
there was,
like today or something because
it wasn't on there before.
no, I checked it last night.
That's weird. Okay,
Because
I just was. I scrolled down like, oh,
Yeah, if you go like halfway down, there's some inappropriate.
yeah.
Some like.
Yes, that's what we were talking
I
about.
know he didn't code that.
Right. Yeah. No. That's
Yeah, this is a
somebody who has
shared.
access.
This
It's
is a
all
shared
really
one
vague.
across all the groups.
So somebody in some class added something
we
that
should-
was stupid. So.
They shouldn't be able to, as in because we upload the solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Display this.
just wanted to. let
Yeah,
know.
thank you for that. I checked last night and
Oh, geez, Eagles came back a little bit
yeah.
easy.
Let's see. This is time sheet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could, I guess, just delete out the one. That's
I don't think you
wrong,
can
huh?
delete one.
Oh,
There's-
okay.
It's all or none.
It's not like in Heroku where you can go in and edit
Yeah.
out your.
It's
Gotcha.
all or
Okay. There you go. You a football fan?
Yeah.
Who's your team?
That's Subway.
Oh, jeez. I guess right. I guess you were there for quite a while, huh?
Yeah. All right. Let's set some nice
So
ones.
not rooting for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's a I don't like Green Bay as well, but today for today.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, guys, if you are using, if one person's doing the repo and you want other people to be able to have access, then the person who owns the repo has to add the other most collaborators.
I'm doing the very oh, is it still there? Go back. Tired? Done my trip? So I think there's a delay. I'd say one person height.
Okay, we still have few minutes. How's everybody doing? Do you guys need 5-10 minutes more? So if you are done with the layout, please make sure wire up this submit event. So when somebody clicks, something adds over here. I mean, just have that code ready as well. The on clicks for this one. Right now, I mean, we are going to put in database for now. If you are done with the layout, make sure wire up, create the event, the on click event. When we click submit, you entered something, you click submit, it just adds over here. Okay, there's no database right now, just a jQuery and add it over here. If you are done with the layout.
The look of question was the look of code we are done and just waiting for something else to go. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Do you guys have the layout done? Any groups still working on it? Two. Okay. Well, if you're working on the layout, the next phase is make sure that the event is wired up as well. Then when I click the submit button and if I enter something, it just shows up on the table. Okay, so you will be writing your on-click event. Make sure that's also wired up. Right now, what it does is you would be reading these values from the form and putting it on the table. In few minutes, we will be connecting to our database. But for now, what you have to complete is the layout, and then when you enter something, you click the submit button. The value just shows up over here. These values. Okay. You will notice that we have four inputs in our form, but we have 6 columns. Okay, so fill the columns with whatever information you have right now, and then we'll go ahead and complete that. The important part is that you have the submit button linked with the on-click event, so that it the values kind of show up over here. So how far is it? 6. Yeah, this is I would recommend using a table. This whole thing is a table, and use a card with a form. The form. Oh yeah. Oh, that's good. And the submit button is linked. Okay. What was your job on this one? You were supposed to I didn't have them using the database. Is that what you did? You got a socialize. No Nintendo? Yeah, it has to be. Okay. So, like trying to say it in Spanish, but she says no Nintendo. Right, yeah. It's amazing the number of people who are like, oh, I love Nintendo. Oh, if you're using wait. And then we get into the they're like, well, what does that actually say? And I'm like, I don't know. No, but what does it say? I'm like, I don't know.
So this one they're just taking it all and just appending it with just nothing to do with the database.
No,
So
no,
just
no,
capturing
no.
the values.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys are, it's good practice because, you know, this is where ranges are like. Yeah, when you're all doing like this, you want to make sure you're like.
Or try option.
Yeah, so you need to put in. Danielle,
Yes.
do you know Vim?
What are you stuck on that?
I don't know Vim very well.
They're trying to exit out.
He wants to merge. They're doing a shared thing. So he.
Oh, yeah, I would recommend doing it on open it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason I say it is it was
It's going to drag your team. Are you doing both? Yes. So like here.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when she opens up there, so hers are.
So here's right in
She's on without I don't know why. I chose the script that fails.
But he was trying to and they wanted to call that. Yeah. So I Max, they don't touch person. So when you put that in together, they had to it's not automatic.
Respective spot.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, sorry. You're looking at the wrong. I was looking at the month before. Yeah, it must be like that month.
So this one has an added style on the jewelry. So that's white there.
Yeah, right now.
Sorry, you guys, I'm gonna start on
It might actually be. I think it's pretty.
Oh, wow. Yeah, mine just comes out.
So this is his current one, and then this is the new one that he's trying to pull, and it's these are my jobs. So you need to
Go to the top.
it'll tell you here's where you're at right now, and this is what you're trying to bring in, and there's the conflicts. So pick which one you want. Oh, there it goes. Yeah.
You just have to exit out. Now both are matching. Yeah. So now you have.
Now you can move here, right?
You can close those. All right. All right. May I have your attention? I'm going to start the next phase of this one. So at this time, you guys should have at least have the layout, right? And I'm hoping you guys added the submit button. If you click, it just adds it over there. Okay. Now, before I proceed, I want to just say something. The data that I'm showing you over here is actually stored in database, and we kind of share this database across all the campuses. And I think there was some inappropriate entries over here, so I apologize for it. I checked it last night, and I don't know if this got added. it's kind of we share it with students so that they can actually practice, but some people, I don't know, still are not grown, I guess. So I apologize for that. And I've cleared the database. And again, I'm going to share this as well when I push the solution to you guys. So please be mindful. Don't try to add some inappropriate entries over here. I mean, eventually, when somebody gets to it, we will delete it, but try not to do that. Okay. So I'm sorry about that if you saw something. I did check last night, but I don't know, must have happened this morning or something. Okay, so it's all nice and clean now. These are all entries that I have added. Okay, so this is all. All right, so the next phase is, remember, now we are going to add our database to it. Okay, all right, so just give me a few minutes here. I'm going to go over, kind of do a warm up so that you guys kind of have that revision. Again, I'm not going to show the code for this exercise. You guys are going to do that. I'm going to show the code for the one that we have been working on in the previous class. Let's go ahead and run this. Make sure this. Okay. So remember we were adding some data. Um, okay, and then it would go ahead and save it to my database. Okay. The other thing was, if I add a new entry, it kind of overwrites my database. So let me show you that this is actually coming from my database so that you guys can see that as well. Okay, so I have my database set up in Firebase and I'm entering some values and it kind of adds it to my database. And if I change this, remember what was happening is going to override it, right? So if I put a different name, I'm trying to do a new entry, basically it kind of like overrides those values. Okay, so the first step of your process is that you guys are going to create a database, connect to it, right? And use the methods that we have seen in the last class. And then once that is done, right? And then we are going to come back and see how we can improve this and make sure that it doesn't override. Okay. Eventually you can delete these entries. But the first important thing is connecting to your database. Okay. Let's do a quick warm up. Remember, how do we start? We start with our configuration. We go into project settings and find out what the configuration for our database is. Okay. Um, yes, create a new database that you can share with everybody because your team is going to be working on the same database. Okay. I would recommend creating a new one. And then you have to initialize this, and I'll leave the code and the activities are uploaded from last week also, so you can look at this code. Okay. And then what was the next part? In this case, we have our add user button, which corresponds to this one, just like your submit button. Okay. When you click the submit button, it takes these values using jQuery and then goes ahead and push it to the database. Okay. How do you capture those values? On click event that you guys just wrote. You guys are going to use the same .val methods, capture all the details, and then this is the method in Firebase. Okay, database.ref. Don't worry about the arguments, just keep it empty. .set. Okay, set takes in one argument that has to be an object, and that's how you would pass in your information. Okay, so you are going to capture your employee information and save it to your database in this manner. Okay, how do you retrieve it back? It's event, just like your click events is going to be on event. So database.ref.on, and instead of click, it's value. So anytime the value changes, you get this event fired. Right? In your success callback, you're going to get the data, all the data from your database, and then what you are going to do is you're going to capture it using the .val function and then show it in your text. Okay. All right, so basically you have to write out these three things. The first is have the config, right? And then use the set method. Set method to save the data is going to overwrite your data. Just remember that. And then the last thing is you're going to use the on event and then get all the data back and then show it. Okay, even if you are not showing it, just make sure console log, and I want to make sure that you guys are getting the data back because we are going to change few things over here in the next activity anyway. Okay, saving and retrieving, that's important. Okay, any questions on this one? Okay, now one last thing. So now what are these columns? From these columns, what are you going to save on in your database? Are you going to save all these 6 columns, or some of them, or none of them? Well, there's no none of them. You have to save something. But take a look at these columns. You have employee, employee name, role, start date, month's work, monthly rate, and total billed. Is everything has to go in your database, or there are some things that you can calculate it? What is that, month's work? You guys heard that? So month's work, can you calculate the month's work? Right, from the start date you can calculate it. What about total billed? You can calculate that as well, right? Using the monthly rate and the number of months work, you can calculate this. Okay, so the point over here is we are not always saving every single thing in our database. Some of the things our application does for us. For example, some of the calculations, right? So the important thing is you're going to save employee name, role, start date, and monthly rate. Those are the 4 things that you would save in your database. And months work and total billed, you can add some math to your website and calculate this based on the information that you are saving. Okay, one of the reasons is that when we have some calculations, you cannot really save these things. What's going to happen if you save month's work, but the next month this is going to change, right? It's going to become 237, right? How would you update in your database? You would have to write a query and go back and update this like every single month, right? Instead, what we do is we are saving things that are not changing. Like this is going to remain the same. Monthly rate, mostly it's going to be the same unless you get a promotion, then you can go back and change it once, right? But using this information, you can calculate this and this. So anything that you can calculate, you would put on your front end, you would take care of that calculations. Okay, so in this one, you're going to create a database, but you are only going to have properties. You're going to save data for employee name, role, start date, and monthly rate. Okay, does everybody understand why? Good. Okay, so go ahead. The next task is create a database, add the config in your JavaScript. Um, the activities, the solutions for previous activities are on GitLab. If you want to refer to them, make sure how the methods are. Okay, take a look at them and try to complete setting these values to your database. Okay, right now it's going to override it, and in the next few minutes we are going to change this to actually add it to our database. So I overheard a few things. So just I want to clarify, we are saving these four columns in our database. You don't have to worry about the calculation right now, right? That will come in the next phase. Right now, we are just saving and retrieving these 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. These calculations will come to that. Just create a database, save them, and retrieve these values. Did you find it a constant time?
I don't think so, but I have a solution,
Yeah.
and I think it's O log n, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I see it now.
or without even but if your scripts are still going, then and they're just right, exactly. Yeah, I'm always I'm working all of that. Other, yeah, good work. Um, That's good. You want to do the on? Let me see how you do this. Whoa. When you guys were doing the bootstrap, I was just like, I don't know. From the start date to today's date, times their birth rate.
Okay, but now you guys added both of your string tags to HTML. These are the ones you got straight from. So, where are you defining these ones? Right. Yeah, it doesn't read anything that's commented. It totally skips everything that's commented. So, yeah, it will not. It's gonna be like, hey, there's no reference to database here. Yeah, it basically those forward slashes are like, do not read this. This is for my use only. So, yeah. Yeah, so it's not going to recognize anything that's commented out. So there you go. Hopefully that should do the trick.
Variable itself. I wasn't sure if it was just like.
Variable is just a reference to the space and time. What's that word?
Calculate.
Take that.
Well, it probably is.
You mean like the employee
But you will have to figure out a way to be able to then parse that.
It's the whole thing.
Convert it to an A and which we're getting to.
I think since the one is set within the same function.
Okay, so the set pushes into on that set for change value. Now I like the set function by database, maybe diagram generate.
Next couple weeks.
So I'll have to take create.
You want to test that? Yeah. Let's see how bad this
I was gonna think another way would be to just work out with IDs, talk about pushing.
I'm gonna pick on you, sure.
We will need to
Cross.
put an ID in
Cross.
the
I'm not gonna forget that.
so that
Oh, you I open it. Oh, yes. You gotta get rid of this bill. I got a question for you. That same day, same day. Can't pick on it. It's a pick on it. Believe it or not, I'm so cool.
All right, it's almost 8 o'clock. We'll take a break and we'll start back at 8:15. Okay, 8:15. I'm going to go forward and show you the next method from Firebase.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So are we going to be having homework in addition to the project, or does the
Yes.
project take the place of the
No.
homework?
No.
Damn.
We still have the homework. Sorry. Yeah. Well, but we'll try to make it easy for you. You still have homework.
Yeah, for some reason I assumed that the project would take the place.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what is this? That actually brings does it need to be and then so making the parts would go with
It lets you add more You will want that. So you will want to have that.
Yeah, exactly. Then because it's a submit button, if you don't have that, when you click the button, it's gonna try and do whatever it wants. It's not gonna get to yeah, somebody pushed something that didn't have that in there. So yes. So this is the danger of all working off of one branch, like one branch, right? And so when you do projects, you have all create branches so that you're doing, and then you'll figure out versions to turn into like a test branch. But this way, when it's kind of like everyone's just flying around doing their own thing.
It's funny because I had yours first, and then whenever I pushed it, it's just
Somebody else's really got rid of it. Exactly. So that's Now, thankfully, it was just script tags, but you know, it was like,
Wasn't something like bigger.
yeah. What you can always do again, you can always revert to something. So that's the whole. That's the good thing about it. It saves everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Go back to
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point. Right? So it's like if somebody like gets rid of something and accidentally pushes it, as long as you guys are doing regular commits, you can always revert back to the previous state of your code where that stuff has not been tested. Yeah, so that's the whole point. You never really lose anything unless you're like really going in there trying to like get rid of stuff.
we just say.
And if you actually look at it in GitHub, you can look at it in your branch and you can like look through like all of the different working commits that have been done and see what the changes have been value. Here, this one,
We got it to work.
so that's going to grab all of the that makes more sense because in my head I was like, I'm just going to grab the whole object. Yeah. So you separate it out. That's on but you just
This just simplifies like
How do we calculate?
it's gonna be start date to current date times monthly rate. Start date to current date times monthly. Which one? Create a function that hasn't been built in calculator and that takes it, but we could just grab it from that table.
Yeah, so.
Like you play rock, paper, scissors. Yeah.
We have to somehow.
I was thinking the other way. What the player results. You know, you're still playing the computer. And it's your results. Kind of like a high school. When you go to arcade and you get high school.
All right. So let's take a look at few things. They're small, but you will see the impact of these two things. Okay. The first is I'm going to assume you guys were able to set up your database. You guys are able to insert in your database. Okay, and then pull those values out. Okay. The problem is that we are using the set method, and what it does is it kind of overwrites your current values. Okay. Now Firebase has another method to take care of that, and all it's called push. You literally just have to change the set method to push, and nothing else changes. Okay. Set inserts the data in your database, and then if you run set again, it's going to override that data. Okay. Push is similar like array push. All right, what do you do in when you have an array and you use a push method? It kind of appends it to the array. That's what the push method over here does. Okay, so initially this was set. I changed it to push. There's no change, and I'm going to run this code, the previous one, and this time we'll see what happens in my database on the left. So I insert something. Okay, and then where's my submit button? There it is. Okay, please see what's happening over here. It inserted, but you see this weird ID. This is coming from Firebase. If you open this, this is your value. Okay, now let's insert a second so that you guys can see and we can discuss this. So if I this time enter okay, so if you were using the set method, it's overwrites it. This time it creates another value over here. Okay, now if you open this, this is your latest one, the one that you just inserted, and there's the other one. So your push method is going to keep adding to your database without overwriting those values. Okay, this is what you need. Now these are called children. These are called children. Why? Because this is the root and this is the parent, most recent user dash 3b22a. You guys will have something different. These two are children of this root collection. Okay, remember the ref part? I said those are collections. So these are basically collections because you have to drill down into it. Okay, now the name of the collection, this is coming from Firebase, and this is going to be unique. This is how Firebase differentiates between different records. Okay, the first one has a different hash code. This is called a hash code, right? And this one, so you don't have to worry about generating this. What you have to worry about is that when you use the push method, your data is getting saved in different collections. Okay, that's the first thing. So set, what was set doing? It was just inserting on your parent, right? And then if you do a set again, it's going to override those values, right? Push, similar to array.push, inserts data as children. Okay, now if you go ahead and insert another record, it's going to be the third child over here. Okay, so that's what push does. Okay, so this is what you need in your application right now. So if you guys wrote it with the set one, all you have to do is change it to push, and then you will see in your database, you can delete the current records, insert again, and you will see these records being inserted in this manner. Okay, any questions on push? Good. Okay, one thing, when we were using set, we were using the event called value. If you are inserting data using push, Same syntax, but the event is called child underscore added. This is the event that you need to add in your code. Okay, so previously when you were using set, you guys should have event called value, right? So we changed it to push. The event instead of value goes to child added. Okay, and do you guys see the reason? Because these are called children. These are all child elements for this one. So instead of looking for the value, you are looking for if there's a child that is added. This means if there's a new element or new data that is added to your database. Okay, so the first thing is change the set to push and change the value to child added. Okay, um, let's see. Let me see if my console shows. Okay, if you are looking at the documentation, sometimes you will see if in the documentation they're using the child added event, they will name this as child snapshot. Okay, again, this is just the naming convention. You can still use snapshot, it doesn't matter. But if you get confused, that's why I want to tell you guys, in documentation you will see if you're using a child, if they're using child added event, you will see this variable called child snapshot. Okay, again, but we understand that the name doesn't matter, but that's what they're trying to try to convey the messages that this is going to get the information once the child is added. Okay, it's going to give you information when a child is added to the database. Okay, all right, any questions? Okay, so go ahead. This should be a fairly quick change if you already did the database part. Okay, so change it to push, change the value to child added, update your application, and then we'll take a look at the next part. All right. Let's move on. Where you guys should be able to add the push. Did anybody complete that part? Good. All right. All right. Let's look at the next thing. Okay. So, at, let's go back and let me see if I can bring it up. Okay. At this point, you guys should have your table set up. Okay. Your form set up. Then your submit button. Okay. And then what else? Your database should be set up. You should be able to push and get the data. Okay. Now, two things are remaining, which is how do you calculate the time? Like you have number of start date, right? And how do you get the number of months out of it? Okay. You can do some crazy calculations, but I'll show you an easy way. We are going to use a library called Moment.js. Okay, and we'll see how we can use that library to kind of make our lives easier. Okay. All right. So the library is called Moment.js. Okay, if you Google Moment.js. Now this is a extremely popular library to handle date formats and stuff with that. Okay, React actually comes built in with this. Angular also uses it. If you're installing those two applications, you will see that you will see in the installation Moment.js being installed on your computer. So Moment.js is an extremely popular one that people use to manipulate the information with the date. Of course, everybody understand that behind the scenes is still JavaScript. Okay, they are just like jQuery. They have created a library, okay, which makes it easier. You can do the same thing with JavaScript, but it will take you 10, 12 lines of code. And with Moment.js, you can do it with just one line of code. Okay, so I'm going to show you some features from the documentation, but please, the expectation is you guys are going to look at the documentation if you're trying to do something different and understand how to use this. So I'm going to give you an initial overview of Moment.js, show you some code. Actually, I'll code few things out for you guys. Okay, and then you guys are going to use that information and complete the project. Let's see, let me open my Moment file. All right, so this is the first page for Moment.js, and how do we start? How do we install or use Moment.js, right? So let's go back. Let's look at our docs or guides. Okay, if you go to docs, the first thing usually you will see in the documentation is how do you install or how do you use. Okay, Node.js, we are not there yet, so we are going to skip this. Browser, this is what we are concerned about. Okay, there's a CDN link over here. We're going to go to CDN. So basically I need to include this in my script in my HTML. Okay, so over here you will see different versions of Moment.js, right? It uses locale. Basically, it has different support for different countries. But if you scroll down at the bottom, you will see a general Moment.js file, and that's what you're interested in. This is literally the last one. Okay. Does everybody understand the difference between min.js and non-min.js? No? You don't? Okay. So let's see. So min, if you open min, this is how it looks like. Okay. If you open a non-min one, this is how it's going to look like. More human readable, right? Okay. So min stands for minification. Okay. When you're including these files in your code, the preferred way is to use the min file, because min file, this is going to be read by your computer. All right. Computer doesn't care about spaces, doesn't care about some of the letters, numbers, and all those stuff. Okay. For computer or a program to read this file is same as reading a non-min file. It doesn't matter. Okay. This is more human readable so that we can actually see what's going on. Okay. So, but what is the cost of this? A space is going to cost you a byte. If you have 5 spaces, that's causing 5 bytes. Okay. What is happening? This whole file, if you are using in your web application, what happens? Everything in your script file kind of gets transferred to your browser, and that's where it loads. So if you are using spaces and all this stuff, this is adding to the size of that file. Okay. So that's why there's a minification process. What it does is it will take out all the spaces and all the stuff that is not required to be read for your program, and kind of reduces the size. If you download this and look at the size of a min file versus a regular file, you will see a big difference. And this is the reason, so that the size is reduced and it's faster transfer to your browser, to your client, and takes up less space. That's the only difference. Okay, again, because our application doesn't care about space or anything. Okay, these spaces are for us so that we can actually see what's going on. That's the only difference. So when you are using a file, somebody else's library, and you don't really want to look at their code, the preferred is you use the min one. Okay, because remember, all these JavaScript files are going to be transferred to your browser, to the client's browser, whoever is using the website. Okay, if the size of this file is big, it's going to take time to load your website. So these are one of some of the ways that you can make your websites load faster. Make sure you use minified files. Okay, there are some libraries, we will take a look at it later on, that you can use to actually minify the JavaScript file that you guys are writing, right? Because the files that you guys are writing, we also have spaces over here, right? For example, this one, it's kind of nicely trimmed, it has spaces and all this stuff, but when I transfer it to the browser doesn't care about these spaces. So you can actually minify your JavaScript files as well. Okay. For now, so let's go ahead and use the minified one, and I am going to add this to my page. Oops, that's not cool. I thought they're going to give me the whole script thing. All right, let me type this out. Does this look right? Yeah. Nope. I had a comment specially for this. All right. So I have added my minified file, basically the library. Okay. I'll close this and come back to it. All right. Let's go back to the main page and then try out some of the examples that they are saying. Okay. So let's look at the first one. It says if you want to use this, moment looks like a function. Okay. And then format looks like another function, and you pass some format over here. Okay. So let's take a look at this line and see what happens when we run this in our code. So let's go back here, run this, open in console, make sure no errors, looks good. Okay. I'm going to console log the one that I just copied. Or let me type the first one out. So the syntax for moment, right? It's a function, and then dot format, and then within the format you have to give some kind of a string format. Okay, so let's go back here and let's copy this format and see what happens. Let's go back here. Let's do this thing. Let's see what happens if I just console log. It gives me a whole bunch. All right, so you guys see what happened? So what does this function do? This is giving you the current date and time. Okay, it's looking up your computer, it's giving you the correct date and time. Okay, what does format do? It converts it into this format, right? First, for uppercase M's look like the name of the month. Okay, this looks like the date, year, hours, minutes, seconds, AM and PM. Okay, let's take a look at something. Let's take a look at this one, DDD. So apparently lowercase DDD is going to give you the current today's day. Okay, now where is this all these formats coming from? These are defined by moment.js, and you have to use the ones that they are telling you. Okay, and I'll show you the documentation where to look for. But the first thing is, this is what moment.js is doing. You give it some date or time, and it is going to format it into something that you're looking for. Okay, now this is extremely important. Why? Because in some of the website, let's suppose you want to show on your website this kind of a date. Okay, now how do you do it? Just use moment, format it according to what you want, and it's going to show you exactly in this format. To do the same thing in JavaScript is pretty complicated. It's not as easy. You can look at the code behind what they're doing. It's not as easy as it looks like. In this case, it just does it in one line. Okay, now let's see what the format is. Let's go back to our docs. Let's see, what are we using? Parse, string plus format. Okay, so these are all the formats that are available to you. Okay, if you use uppercase Y's 4 times, this means you are saying give me the year, complete year. Okay, if you are saying let's try this out. So if I reduce this to 2, it should give me just the last 2 digits of the year. Okay, if you use Q, it gives you quarter number from 1 to 4. If you don't want the whole month, looks like this is giving you the whole exact month, so you can reduce it to 3. This will give you the 3-letter code for the month. So instead of whole September, it changes to Sep. Okay, days have different ones. Okay, so you can combine all of these formats, but the thing is, these are the ones that are defined. So you need to look over here and kind of figure out what you are trying to do. Okay, let's suppose I did the DDD one. So let's suppose I want my date in, let's do day, month, YY, given hour, minutes, and then AM, PM. Something like this. Okay, so how would I format this? Let's console log that. So moment, okay, dot format. Let's say it's going to be DD, then you can say MM, YY, HH, MM, and then A. A should give us AM, PM. Okay, so this is how I formatted my date. Okay, so in your application, if you want the user to type in some date in this format, or whatever they type in, you want to convert the date and put it in your database in one exact format, this is how you would do it. You will capture the input, convert it into a format that you like. Okay? All right, any questions so far? Good? Okay. So right now what we are doing is we are converting the current date. All right, that's not always the case because, for example, the start date in your case is not the current date, right? It's some other date. Now, how do you convert that date into this format? Okay, so there's a different syntax for it. I mean, if you use moment, this is always going to give you current information, like your current date. Okay, so let's look at our documentation, and I think it is. So this is the one that we were looking at, display, right? Moment or format. This is a function we were using, and all of these are available to you. Oh, there's a lot more. Okay, seconds also. Oh, it goes to like milliseconds. Wow. Okay. Let's look at, was it? No, we'll come back to it. String and formats. Okay. So this method, if you see what is it doing, it takes in 2 arguments. Okay. This is how it works. You are going to give it a date. Let's say, let's create a variable, and I'm going to say random date. Okay, and then I'm going to assign a date to it. Okay, what is the data type for this? It's a string. Okay, moment has no idea what this is. It's a string. So you need, if you want to use moment, you have to convert this string into the moment data type. Okay, so what's the thing? Let converted date is equal to, and then use the same, this method that I have highlighted, moment. Okay, this time you're going to give the date that you want to convert. Okay, and the format that your date is in. What is the format that this date is in? It's in / then days. Okay, and then year. Okay, so you are giving moment any date, and you are saying this date is actually in this format. Now your variable, this thing, is now applicable to convert it into any other format using moment. Okay, again, line number 30 is a string, right? It doesn't do anything. It's not going to convert into a date. Okay, if you want to use moment to work on this date, you have to, what you have to do, you have to give this date to moment, okay, and then give the format that this date is in. Okay, after that you can use this one to convert into anything that you want. Let's say converted date dot format. Let's use the exact, this one. Let's do console, so we can actually see this. Let's go back here. Okay, since there was no hours or minutes or seconds given in your original date, what does it do? It adds a default 12 a.m. to it. Okay, but it is converting this date, the random date, to whatever format that you want. Again, you can use this format, it doesn't matter. The only thing required, if you are passing in a date which is not current, you have to have this code in place. Okay, moment, the date that you want to convert, and the format that this date is in. Okay, also note you can do this whole thing in just one line. I just did it so that you guys can see it differently. You can do this as in like moment, right, and give any date as a string. Let's say 01 01 2018. Okay, and then give the format is a space dd/yyyy. Okay, and then you can format using the format method over here. You can do the same thing in just one line. I just did it separately so that you guys can actually see that this is being converted. You're saving it to a variable and then using the format method. Okay, so the two methods over here are moment and format. Okay, moment without any arguments is going to give you the current date and time. Moment with two arguments is going to take this and kind of convert this into a moment object, basically, which you can use to format in any other way you want. Okay, questions? Any questions on this? Okay, again, the documentation is, so we looked at display. How do you display in different formats using without any arguments? Okay. Now we are looking at parsing. So string plus format. Okay. The last thing I want to show you guys is the manipulation of the date. Oh, sorry, there was a difference. Where's the add, subtract, start of time? Oh, it's under display. Okay. All right, under display, there's a method called difference. Okay, it's called diff, diff. What it does is it gives you the difference between two dates. Okay, now this is kind of trending into the application you guys are working on. You guys want to find out that how many months have passed between the start date and the current date, so that you can calculate how much money have that person earned. Okay, so there is a method called diff that you can use to calculate that time that has passed. Okay, for example, if I want to find a difference between my converted date and today's date, okay, so it's 1999, and then I'm going to find the difference between this date and today's date. So how much time has passed? So it's going to be converted date, because this is the object, dot diff. Okay, and then you pass in moment. If I pass in moment without anything, what does this mean? Current date and time. Okay, and then the next part is, what are you trying to calculate? Okay, are you trying to find out the number of years between this date, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes? Let's start with years. So the second argument is, I'm trying to find the number of years between my current date and my converted date, which is this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and console log this. And then look at our code. Okay, so you see the -20 over here? That's the number of years that have passed between this date and the current date. So if I change this to months, it's going to give me the number of months between my current date and the previous date, 247. What does a negative show? Negative is showing that this is in the past. Okay, so if my random date was in the future, it's going to give me a positive number saying the difference from my current date and the future date is 11,752 months, because I'm converting into months. Okay, if you see a negative sign, this just means that the date that you are trying to find the difference is in the past. If you see a positive, this means the date is in the forward, right? Compared to what? Compared to my current date. Okay, so now what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to use this library and update your code, your application that you're working on, and then calculate the number of months. Basically, you have a start date now. Okay, you have a start date, and then you're trying to find the difference between the start date and this current date. How many months have passed, and this will give you that column that will fill up that column. Okay, again, just to recap, go to this site, get the CDN, right? And then the code to use this would be starting with the moment function. So parentheses, moment, parentheses, and the other function is format if you want to format it. If you want to find the difference, it's diff. Okay? There's one last format that I wanted to show you guys. Converted date dot format, and this is already in the documentation. X. Does anybody know what if I do X? What is it converting it into? This number. This is a huge number over here. Any idea? Ah, yeah. Go ahead, Josh. What is it? 1970? Right. It's called, as Josh is saying, it's called Unix timestamp. So this, if you use a format X, the uppercase X, is going to give you a number of seconds that have passed from 1970 January 1st to today. And remember, 1970 is the date when Unix was born. That's why they use this date. Okay, so if you use the uppercase X, it gives you the number of seconds that have passed. If you use a lowercase x, it's going to give you the same thing in milliseconds this time. Okay, so if I change it to lowercase x, it gives you number of milliseconds that have passed from 1970 January 1st to today. Okay, it was just one of those nerdy things that I wanted to show you guys. So that's good. That's good. Okay, you guys will be dealing with Unix timestamp. I am telling you. So understand that this is what it means. All right. So let's go ahead, update your application now, and see if you can calculate the column. Yes. You have a question, Simon?
So I think last time, instead of this exact
So he's asking about when we, like on the initial page load, we're grabbing all of the elements from the database rather than just like the most recent child. Are we
Yeah.
covering that next? Is that the...
No, we're grabbing everything.
Okay, so that's still happening on the get child.
Yeah. Get child gives
We'll
you
grab
everything.
all of the children.
All the children.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it actually grabs
So like to
single.
parse it out, if you have like 5 records in there
Right,
that are
it's-
all children.
It's going to give you the last one.
Okay,
The
right.
child, as soon as the child is added, it's going to give you.
The most
But it's
recent
going to,
one, right?
yeah, it's going to fire for every single record.
Okay.
So if there are 5, it's actually 5. If you console log it, it's actually firing 5 times.
Okay,
It's going,
so
child added,
it should still do that on if you refresh the page.
Yes,
it should
come
be
up.
grabbing
Yes.
every single one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
But it's grabbing it 5 different times.
Right,
So however
okay.
many record is, yeah.
So yeah, the add child's in order, or it's just gonna going through and firing it until
Yeah.
it's completed the database.
Yeah, that should be. So if you do a console log, you will see it will fire X number of times as many
Part of that is put outside that all channels, so it's still all within the function.
So it's set a variable outside, so you still call that variable inside there, and you call it a program variable.
Yeah. So what is your boundary?
I think this is just not. I mean, all it's doing on
Okay, so.
I don't have it, it's not set up.
Yeah.
I think it's started.
Oh, no, that's fine, yeah, but it's not, that's, yeah, I understand.
Because right now, there's two
But if you do the trial,
Yes,
it will even open.
it will,
Go through.
right, it should, it
Each
should.
child.
So you want to call, if you have 5 records, you can call 5 records.
Well, actually, no, if they're labs. First,
It's gonna render, it's gonna,
when you add a new one.
Yes.
It's always like that.
It calls for only one. When you click, when a child gets added, then it fires off. This is on the page, this is what you guys right now, it's on the page.
initial load.
Initial mass, that's the difference. If you move this code inside your subnet, yes. If you move it to your on-click, what's going to happen? It's going to call it once because only one child is moved. Child added gets how would what?
How it makes know who's not in prior to go through every child.
Yes, this is how it goes. So when you click, when you say, go ahead and push, right? And then you have a child added event, it's going to call you
added.
yes, it's going to give you the last.
So if you maybe add two,
It will give you the last two. How would you add two?
I mean, I don't know why you would.
No, but how would you add two?
You have to push two.
Oh, on the on-click, then it's going to call child added twice. Right. So every single, it doesn't matter, parallel, not parallel, they're taking care. It's going to call that event no matter what. If, so there are 2 times you're going to be calling this one. Once over here on the initial table, and once when you push it, so that you get the new value appended to your table over. Sorry, so it's going to be, you have to do it twice.
But yeah, on the initial page, it's gonna go look at the database and be like, okay, there's 5 in here, so there's a child added, child added, child added, child added.
Yes, when you refresh the page. But your console log should be getting something if your database setup is good and.
But he just cleared it too, so.
Oh, okay, that's
It
all.
was good.
Okay.
So it's a days.
Right now, we're seeing we're not seeing what the format
So I felt like I entered. Oh, you're okay.
Like, so where you're wanting to get database, right?
I designed it
So,
times
you're not looking big. So here, this is where you're getting.
That is.
I mean, I just wanna make sure that. This is our code, like that.
Yeah,
This is
like,
the-
But then,
So I'm not questioning.
Oh,
The month, I'm just.
Oh, because this calculation is for on the website.
Yeah, the total bills. Month. It just looks really weird.
What's the calculation?
Because of like one person was trying to share and merge or first we figured out that like, and we're like, okay, let's just do this.
Okay. So I'm glad you guys experienced it on Saturday. I was going to walk you guys through that. How do you collaborate with how do you create branches? How do you protect the master? Nobody should be able to protect the master at all. Okay, what has to happen is there's a review process when you are supposed to master. Somebody has to be that coach and then the person that shows up and they have and then you coach. It's not the owner. The reviewer can be able to sign on because everybody comes up. The only thing is, if you have written the code, you are not supposed to push it.
Oh, yeah.
The code is verified if you listen. So that's what it is. So you will push your code and it will be in that simple state and then you will be, hey, I written this code, I want to push it to my
I don't know why that's prevented. I
they review it and review your code and then they will say, okay, looks good, press and this will reduce that, oh, somebody pushed, I didn't know, and somebody didn't push, I didn't know. That's good because experience is how.
Yeah, we were like using each other's codes.
Yeah.
So today it's not
Today we'll talk about the homework. Oh, that, you have to have. Well, you will see I try to make it easy. Some of these things are very similar. There's one last thing and that should be good.
I got it. But it's like I worked from
So I see at least one group is able to push the dates and calculate. Josh, John, Irina, what were you guys? Were you guys able to push? Oh, okay. So at least two groups is working. Oh, you got what? Oh, really? Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. At least two. Who else? You guys. Oh, you guys are done. You guys are close, right? Done?
yeah, we got it. They were just can't figure out how to declare like it wasn't working inside the function. We tried outside the function.
How do you declare the date?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, we have it
Makes sense because this is inside. So you have to alter it also instead of actually doing it.
No, I think you've got so many in here because it's you've got
Okay, so is this is kind of article? It should be inside your. So as soon as you click submit, right, it should go ahead and save to the database, which you have your push that is good. And then after that, you need this event so that it gets fired and you are able to capture it. So within your on submit, you are doing two things. On your submit, you push it to your database, right? And then within the same function, you are also checking for child added. Why? Because as soon as this is added, this will give you the recent data that is added, and that's when you will have access to data and all that stuff. You see? So these both are inside the same. If you put child added outside, this is saying that when my page refreshes the first time, then this will get called. Then this won't get called ever. That's the.
No, it's center, it's still in.
But yeah, so this one now is
Because it's on.
All right, it's 9:15. We have 15 minutes left. And one of the TAs who's introducing the homework, Chester, has to introduce the homework also. So I want to go through one last thing, and this will help you in your homework. It's almost the solution is there. Okay, so it's not as kind of gives you the solution also. Okay, so here's the situation. Chester will go over the homework, and you will see that everything that we have done today is going to help you in your homework. Okay, and one of the reasons is that you have project also due and also homework due. Okay, I didn't make the rules, that's how it is. All right, so but these activities are going to help you get your homework done really quickly. Okay, so here's the first thing. When Chester goes over the homework, this will be more clear, but let's take a look at this example. I want you guys on your table in your groups kind of look over this problem. It's simple, it's a math problem. It has nothing to do with coding right now. Okay? First train, there's a train schedule that you will have to make in your homework, and he'll go through it. But the scenario is that there's a train that the first time it leaves is at 3 a.m. Okay, that's how the train starts, and then it goes on its day. Okay, in every 3 minutes, the train comes to a particular station. All right, so it starts at 3 a.m. and every 3 minutes, the train is arriving to a station. Okay, so there are backup trains and they're coming every 3 minutes later. That's what it means. Okay, so assuming the current time is 3:16 a.m., what would be the next train be like? What time would be the next train? Wow, that was fast. Okay. Does everybody understand that? Make sure everybody on your table understands that. Okay, this is a group thing. Everybody understands that? All right. Let's do the second one. If it starts at 3 a.m., okay, it comes at every 7 minutes. If it is 3:16, what's the next time? Ooh, 1 minute left. 21. 3:21. Okay, and I'm going to upload this so you guys will have the kind of solution for it. Okay, now the second stage of this is you guys were able to calculate it. That's good. How would you calculate it using math? Like, how would you process it? Like, how would you convert this into an equation that you can always come to this conclusion? me put this. This is actually the solution, but yeah, Raymond, go ahead. What do you have?
I was just gonna say mod 7.
Mod 7, but what do you mod 7 with?
I guess per minutes.
Okay, and how do you calculate the minutes?
Oh, I have no idea.
No. The information is there. You're right. Starts at 3 and right now it's 3:16. So how do you calculate the number of minutes? Subtract. Okay, so you're basically subtracting this, and Raymond is saying then you mod with what? Whatever the frequency, basically how many times it is coming, and why do you do that? What will it give you when you mod this? It gives a remainder, but what's the representation of that remainder? You don't have to take a picture. I'm going to upload this.
I need to remember.
No, this is. I'll upload this. So it gives you the leftover minutes, basically, right? So, I mean, it starts at 3 a.m. Right now it's 3:16. Again, this is a very simple case because both are on the same time zone, AM, right? So you have to take care. If this was PM, what do you have to do? Remember Moment.js? You can use Moment.js to convert it into a format that you can subtract and get the number of minutes. Okay, that's the point. The point is you're subtracting number of minutes and dividing or mod by what is this 3? Every 3 minutes is coming. So you're basically dividing it and seeing what is the leftover. Okay? And then to calculate how many minutes it's away, you are subtracting. Okay, so my 3 was that it's going to come at every 3 minutes. This much is remainder. So this means the train is 2 minutes away. And this is just adding it to them. Okay, the second case, similar. You are calculating the number of minutes from current time and when the train starts. Okay, and then you mod with the number of every these many minutes the train is coming. You mod this by this, so this means 2 minutes are remaining. Okay, and when you subtract it with the frequency, it gives you exactly how many minutes the train is away. Okay. All right, I'm going to upload this calculation, or you guys can see it. There's a code below with the exact thing, but I'm not going to go over the code. Okay, this is literally your solution for the homework. So you have to do is you have to understand how this code is working before you use it in your homework, of course. And then now Chester will introduce the homework. You will see that every single activity that we did was a purpose. It's to help you so that you can complete your next homework super fast. Right, Chester? Okay. All right. Before that, on Saturday, we are going to kick off our project week. Yay! 2 weeks of project. The teams are what you worked on today. These are the hand-picked teams. You guys are going to be working in this team. Okay? Again, become best friends for next 2 weeks. All right, hold on. Give me a minute before you start celebrating, okay? So I want to just let you guys know. All right. So I want to guys let you know that my purpose here that everybody is successful in projects. This is going to be a portfolio. These are hand-picked teams. Okay, I have spent some time on it, but understand that this is you guys are going to be working in teams, and I'm go over how much important this is on Saturday as well. You will be best friends for the next 2 weeks. So if you are upset at something, let's get it resolved today. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. I'll see you guys on Saturday, and Chester will introduce the homework.